what Kaiser did is they kept asking probing questions about their religious exemption. They violated the First Amendment, which allows for religious freedom. And ultimately, for those 411 employees, they fired them despite the fact that they submitted religious exemptions.
Well, hey, everybody, welcome to Our Watch. I am Tim Thompson. Kaiser employees are suing Kaiser. There's some great things coming up on the horizon, and here to talk to us about this today is our friend, Dr. Jeff Barke. Dr. Barke, thank you so much for joining us on Our Watch.
Pastor Tim, great to be with you again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, grateful to have you on. Your influence into what's happening right now in the state of California has been incredible. You're a doctor that has not gone, lockstep with what the radical left wants you to. You've been standing for real science, and we're grateful for you. And we've got this lawsuit, as you know, going on right now against the Kaiser Permanente Medical Group. You've got nurses, doctors, you got all these employees. In fact, 411 of them have brought a lawsuit against Kaiser. Why are they suing Kaiser, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm part of it, or rather, I spoke at the press conference, as you know, to support the efforts, and they're suing because of religious discrimination. These are employees that include RNs, nurses, medical assistants, ancillary healthcare workers, and some physicians that submitted a religious exemption for the COVID-19 vaccination. Many of us did that. I did that myself as part of the United States Army Reserve. But what Kaiser did is they kept asking probing questions about their religious exemption. They violated the First Amendment, which allows for religious freedom, and ultimately, for those 411 employees, they fired them despite the fact that they submitted religious exemptions. And so Dan Watkins, who's the lead attorney, is representing these employees and is suing, saying that they were discriminated. They were discriminated for their religious beliefs. And I think they're going to prevail, and this is a very important lawsuit. I'm very happy to be part of it or to be supporting it because it's personal to me too. I had a Kaiser nurse named Stephanie, and after 17 years of exemplary service at Kaiser, she chose not to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And as a result, she was fired. Now, lucky for her and for me that she was able to come and work for me for about a year. So I was able to give her a respite from the Kaiser tyranny. Ultimately, she moved on and moved to Texas. But for these other employees that were fired, many of them weren't able to find other jobs, and they were out on their own. Some of them single moms. Some of them were the only bread keeper and their bread maker in their home. They're the only source of income. And Kaiser didn't care. Kaiser doesn't care about their employees. I'm not sure they actually care about their patients either. So this is a very, very important lawsuit because it's not unique to just Kaiser. This is happening all over the country, not just in healthcare, but other industries as well.
Right.
And I think, Tim, you and I both know that what goes on in California doesn't stay in California.
Oh, we know that for sure.
If we win this lawsuit, I think it'll send a message across the country. Likewise, if we lose this lawsuit, it's going to give others, it will embolden others to continue the religious discrimination that's occurring in our hospital systems, in our universities, etc. So this is a very, very important lawsuit. I'm confident that we're going to prevail.
I am too. You consider the 411 plaintiffs in this lawsuit, and we have to be really clear that represents so much more than 411 people. There are a lot of people who didn't have the courage that these 411 did to stand so firm on their religious beliefs. Many of them caved, sadly. They caved to this, even though in their heart and their spirit they knew that that this was wrong. But they didn't have the courage that these 411 do, and I'm so grateful for them because they're going to be a voice for so many people. You're involved in this. You were there at the press conference. You're speaking out about this, and yet I've heard a lot of people going, "Oh, those crazy Christians." they're just a bunch of crazy Christians. Why are they doing this? But you're not a Christian, are you?
No, I'm a Jew. So this isn't, not a crazy Christian, although the person you believe in was also a Jew as well. And so I'm proud as a Jew to stand hand in hand with my evangelical Christian friends to support this effort. It's personal to me.
Right.
I myself submitted a religious exemption. My nurse, who is a single mom, one of the most courageous people I know, she had nowhere else to go. She didn't know how she was going to pay her rent or pay her bills, but she believed. She believed that if she stood on principle that God would answer her prayers, take care of her, show her a path forward. And fortunately for her and for me, we saw that. Right. So those 411, and boy, they represent a lot more than 411. Dan Watkins, in putting this lawsuit together, was continuing to have people reach out to him before the ultimate filing. So I think there are thousands and thousands of Kaiser employees and other employees in other hospital groups that are looking to us, that are looking to Dan in this lawsuit, hopefully to prevail. And there are other lawsuits going on as well for religious discrimination. As you know, Pastor, I'm involved in a lawsuit against the Medical Board of California to try to prevent AB 2098 from becoming law.
Right.
That's the law, of course, that Governor Newsom signed that will allow the medical board to take my license away for spreading so-called misinformation and disinformation. So my speech at the press conference would likely be considered misinformation. And so we can't allow this to occur. We must fight, even if we're fighting alone. God put us on this earth not to live a comfortable life, but to do battle on his behalf and to make sure we fight for what is right and what is righteous.
Right. And, you say that that Jesus was a Jew as well, and there couldn't be, that's so true. And in part of what happened during this whole process, as you know, I was the first pastor nationwide to come out with a religious doctrinal statement against this shot. And I pulled from Judaism to do that. There is no Christianity without Judaism. So I pulled from Judaism to do this, where the priests are to determine what is clean and unclean. And what we said from the very beginning was, we haven't seen enough data yet to determine, is this clean or unclean? And so at this point, because there were so many adverse reactions being reported at the time that I was reporting, at the time I made this doctrinal statement, there were roughly 76,000 adverse reactions had been reported. Now that number is exponentially greater. And we're seeing that maybe these people, us included, that said, hey, we don't really know that this is going to be good for you. We're starting to see the numbers show that, yeah, really might not have been good for you, might not have been a clean thing. And so that's where, as a religious leader, that's where I took from the scripture saying, hey, as a religious leader, I'm saying right now we're deeming this unclean. What are you seeing right now nationwide as far as the jab and what this is doing?
Well, Pastor Tim, I agree with you. So first of all, we knew at the get-go it was unclean. So first of all, every COVID vaccine, and we're talking Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, were either grown in or tested on aborted fetal cell lines. So regardless of the vaccine's efficacy, that's enough from my perspective to reject it from somebody who holds a sincerely held religious belief. But actually, I don't even think you should need a religious belief exemption to not get this vaccine. It's enough that you should have bodily autonomy to determine what goes into your body or not. So it shouldn't even take a religious exemption. Ethics professor at the University of California, Irvine, Aaron Cariotti, who is an evangelical Christian, was fired from UCI. Interesting that he's a professor of ethics there. He was fired because he refused the COVID vaccine. And he went further, even though he had a good reason to submit a religious exemption as an evangelical Christian. He said, I'm not going to do that. It's not fair. It's discrimination. What about people that are atheists? What type of exemption do they have? And so I stand in unity, he said, with anybody that doesn't want this vaccine. It should not require a religious exemption or any other exemption from a medical ethics standpoint, because this is an experimental product. It's being used under emergency use authorization. So definitionally, it's experimental. It's not an approved product. So nobody should be forced to put an experimental investigational product in their body. But what we're seeing is an abject failure of this vaccine program. The vaccine is neither safe nor effective. It doesn't stop infection and it doesn't stop transmission. Pfizer told us early on that it was 95+% effective at preventing somebody from getting ill with COVID and preventing transmission. We've since learned, and we knew this, that that was a lie. Doesn't prevent infection, doesn't prevent transmission, and the signals of injury are growing on a daily basis. So it's hard for me to recommend this product to anybody, and under no circumstances should a healthy child receive this product. Children are not at risk. Doesn't make sense to vaccinate a child against an illness that they're not at risk using an investigational product that has no long-term safety studies. I've used your doctrinal statement in my own exemption, and I've sent it to many other people. You were the first pastor that I'm aware of that had the courage to put together such a statement. Others have since followed suit, and I admire your leadership and your courage in doing so.
Well, I appreciate that, Dr. Barke. We have just a few minutes left. Consequences of this lawsuit, this Kaiser lawsuit, and really your opinion as far as the success of it. Do you think this lawsuit is going to be successful? And if so, what do you think the ramifications are nationwide?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, I'm not an attorney, but in talking to Attorney Dan Watkins, who's the lead on this case, he strongly believes that from a legal standpoint, this is a rock solid case, and he should win, even if he has to appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court. Winning this case is important nationally because it'll send a shot across the bow to other organizations that are preventing people from exercising their religious freedom. And losing this case similarly would be devastating because it would give permission to universities and healthcare systems and businesses and others to continue this process of firing people because they won't get vaccinated and because they put forward a religious exemption.
All right. Well, Dr. Barke, how can our audience connect with you if they want to follow you? You've got your own social media presence and your own website and stuff. How can they connect with you?
I do. I'm most active on Instagram, RX4Liberty, RX4FOR Liberty. I have a website with the same name. On both platforms, you can contact me. I always respond to messages that come in through my website or come in through messaging on Instagram as well.
All right. Well, Dr. Barke, again, your leadership here in the state of California and across our nation has been integral to the freedom movement. We're so grateful for you. So God bless you, and we'll see you next time on the program.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate what you're doing.
All right. God bless you. Thank you, for everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.